Redshirt log 4/27/2016. For the 56 people that watched the first video I uploaded, for some reason no sound was recorded. So I'm doing this again. And the upside gives me a chance to refocus my thoughts. It's a second draft. So I'm talking about X-Men Apocalypse, specifically the final trailer, but I'm kind of going to talk about the first two trailers too. I'm just going to talk about my thoughts on the movie in general, and then this trailer, because this trailer changed my opinion on the film. Not on the film, because I haven't seen the film, but in my excitement for the film. So, going on just the first two trailers, I was really excited for this movie. I was probably more excited for this movie than I was for Civil War. I'm sure Civil War will probably end up being a better film, but I also think I know what Civil War is gonna be. Like, all the Marvel films kind of have a similar tone. At the very least, this is the same team that gave us Winter Soldier, so I assume it'll be somewhat similar to that. So, while I think Civil War is going to be good and probably a better movie, I was a little bit more excited for Apocalypse because Apocalypse looks really interesting. It is easily the most comic booky looking of all of the X-Men films. It's the biggest scale of any of the X-Men films, it looks like. Now, I will say this movie continues Bryan Singer's war on the stereotype that gay men have a fashion sense. Because most of the costumes look terrible. These are hands down the worst X-Men costumes we have gotten to date. I went to bat for Bryan Singer when it came to Days of Future Past. I know those future costumes didn't look particularly great, but given that they were supposed to be the future of the old X-Men films, and, it's the future, so everybody wearing black, armored leather, that's not so bad. And I thought that when we got to this film, we would have better X-Men costumes. And then we got the early pictures. And, everybody made fun of Apocalypse. I didn't mind him. I thought he looked fine. He looks better now. They've color corrected him and digitally put the mouth things on. He looks fine. Storm looks awesome. I love that they're doing the punk rock Storm with the mohawk. Angel looks okay. Magneto looks okay. Psylocke looks great. Of all of the characters in this movie, Psylocke looks straight off the page. But then I found out that that's because Olivia Munn forced Bryan Singer to make the costume look straight off the page. The original costume was black leather. And then we finally see the X-Men costumes, and they're just more of this, oh, it's 2000, The Matrix just came out, and black leather is the coolest thing ever. They look really bad, especially after we just got Deadpool, which has easily the best-looking X-Men costume of all time with Negasonic Teenage Warhead. These costumes are awful. I mean, they're not bad enough to completely destroy this film or take me out of it, but just based on the first two trailers, that's the worst thing in them, is that those costumes look horrendous. I thought Apocalypse looked and sounded pretty cool. They've added a voice modulation in the second trailer, and that's in this trailer, but it's weird because sometimes his voice is modulated and sometimes it didn't, which leads me to believe that we're stitching together lines from different points in the movie, and maybe the voice modulation will be when he's giant. Or something like that. Maybe some of those lines in this trailer that aren't modulated are more, or are going to be in ancient Egypt before he becomes all blue. I'm not sure, but it's weird because in the first trailer he had no voice modulation, and in the second trailer he had voice modulation, and in this trailer he has both. I prefer it without the voice modulation, but I don't hate the voice modulation. So what we have, I guess I'm going to get to this trailer and where I kind of fell off in my excitement for this film. Uh, because this film is essentially the culmination of a trilogy that starts with First Class, then Days of Future Past, then this. They've said that this is going to be the last of the period piece films, and presumably after this we jump forward to present day. Which is a little weird because we just cast all of the X-Men, or all of the original X-Men, the film original X-Men. Nobody comment. I know that these aren't Beast, or that, Iceman and stuff. And get off my back! I know about comics, but these are the original X-Men from the first film. Uh, and so I think it's weird that we would cast them and do all of that, and then we're just gonna toss them out and go back to modern day. But whatever. So this is kind of the culmination of a trilogy that is all about Professor X and Magneto. That's what this trilogy has been about. And I know that the previous films, the X-Men, X-Men 2, X-Men United, and X-Men: The Last Stand, um, were also kind of about Xavier and Magneto, but different. Um, Xavier's representation in the original three X-Men films is more ideological, because because we don't know how to write a story with him because he's so powerful. We have to take him off the board, and that happens in all three of those films. And Magneto is a constant threat. But this trilogy is about them and their relationship. That's what the first two films have been, and that's what this film looked like it was kind of going to be. Um, it's all about, these three films are about Professor X and Magneto. All of the other characters have been kind of ancillary. Even, uh, the villains in First Class and Days of Future Past have been kind of ancillary to uh, Magneto and Professor Xavier. That is what this trilogy is about. And then we get this trailer, and it's about Mystique. It looks like Mystique is the main character of this film. And it looks like, once again, Professor Xavier is going to get taken off the board probably in the first act of this movie. And then this movie is all about Mystique leading the X-Men. I thought maybe Bryan Singer learned that, like, maybe we were going to move away from some of those things that are in all of the movies, or that are in all three of the original films, like Professor X getting taken off the board because they don't know how to write around his powers. But that's back. The other thing I was hoping that we were gonna get around was that no one has any interest in Cyclops, and that he basically doesn't need to be in any of these movies. So far, Cyclops has, I believe, 2 lines. And instead of, being like, we really shortchanged Cyclops, what if this movie is kind of Cyclops-centric, and, Professor Xavier gets taken away because we have no idea how to write around his powers, and a young Cyclops has to step up and try and lead this team of other young people that he's not really in any way qualified to lead. But we're not doing that because of Jennifer Lawrence. Now, I don't know if people know this, but First Class came out, and Jennifer Lawrence is easily the worst part of the main cast of that film. She's not bad, but she's not particularly good in that movie, and a lot of it's because she's next to McAvoy and Fassbender, and they're both amazing in that movie. She's kind of the weak link of the main cast of that film. And then something happened. She starred in a mediocre teen novel adaptation where she was okay. And all of a sudden, she's one of the biggest stars on the planet. And so when they did Days of Future Past, she was like, well, I'm contractually obligated to come back, but I really don't want to do this movie. So if you do make this movie, I have to be the central focus of the film. If you thought all of that stuff with Mystique and Days of Future Past was a little weird and a little contrived, it's because it was a little weird and a little contrived, because they had to make the central plot point of that film Mystique, because of Jennifer Lawrence. And then with this film, it seems that that has just grown. Like, this film, based on this trailer, looks like this is just a vanity piece for Jennifer Lawrence. This is just ego stroking for Jennifer Lawrence. We're not really interested in, developing the characters that we shortchanged previously, like Storm or Cyclops or even Jean. We're just gonna make a movie about Jennifer Lawrence. This is Jennifer Lawrence, the movie starring Jennifer Lawrence as Blue Jennifer Lawrence. Um, That really bothers me. It bothers me that the conclusion of a trilogy about two characters has now shifted focus on main characters. Again, this is all just based on the trailer. I'm not. I could be wrong. Maybe she just takes over in the third act, and Professor Xavier gets taken out in the end of the second act, something like that. But that's not how this trailer is cut. This trailer makes it look like she is the main character of the film. That really bothers me. Um, it would be like if in Return of the Jedi, Princess Leia became the main character. Princess Leia is a great character. Um, but those movies are about Luke and Vader and kind of the development of their relationship. That's kind of the main thrust of those films. It's not the only thing in those movies, but that's the main thematic thrust of those films is Luke's journey. And as it went along, it also kind of became Vader's journey. So changing it so that, we're following the story of this character and kind of his relation with this character, and then changing the main focus to another character in the third film is very strange. And that's what this looks like. It looks like a movie that's the third in the trilogy about Professor X and Xavier's relationship, but Professor X is taken off the board because Jennifer Lawrence is a bigger star and has more power. And I really don't like that. I don't. I think Jennifer Lawrence is passable in First Class. I think she's grown leaps and bounds as an actress between First Class and Days of Future Past. I think she is. I think she's good in Days of Future Past. I think she's a lot better than she was in First Class. Um, but not enough that I'm excited for her to take over this movie. She's essentially the new Wolverine, except Wolverine is one of the most popular comic book characters of all time, and Hugh Jackman kind of blew everybody's mind with how good he was, and so he was kind of the central character of the first X-Men movie because he's the most popular, one of the most popular comic book characters of all time, and then we just kind of kept making it more and more about Wolverine, and I hated that. Especially by the time we get to Last Stand, Wolverine should never be in charge of an X-Men team. Like, that's ridiculous. But she's the new Wolverine, except it's not that the character is popular and that the actor really blew everybody away with how well he presented the character. It's that outside of this material, she's become a bigger and bigger star. And possibly to the detriment of this film, it's influencing that. And I really don't like that. I don't know. It really bothers me. If they were going to do this, I don't know why they wouldn't just give her her own movie. Just say, hey, this story is really not about you, so we're just not going to have you in this third X-Men movie because you're not really essential. But we'll make a Mystique movie. Mystique's a character that's been in all of the X-Men movies, not counting the Wolverine movies. She's in all three of the X-Men. So yeah, she's been in all the X-Men movies. Give her her own movie. You don't need to derail this film and this trilogy to placate this star. I could be wrong. This trailer could have just been cut to make it look like it's the Mystique show, but it looks like it's the Mystique show. And then, as one article put it, at the end of the trailer, we get a claw that looks similar to Wolverine's. If that really excited anybody, it should be noted, Hugh Jackman just finished filming on this film. They did reshoots for this film and added some scenes with Hugh Jackman. So I'm guessing that Hugh Jackman's probably in this about as much as Quicksilver was in Days of Future Past. So I wouldn't get super excited if you're a Wolverine fan. And honestly, you've got 5 other Wolverine movies. Like, it's okay that he's not in this. I was actually really excited that we were getting an X-Men movie without Wolverine, but it looks like when we cut to him, we see what looks like an exact replica of the Weapon X set from X-Men 2. So I'm going to guess that we have some, that at some point the X-Men get captured by the government or something and are kind of imprisoned, and then there's a breakout and Wolverine's involved, and then we don't see him again for the rest of the film. Kind of like how we went and got Quicksilver in Days of Future Past. So that's my guess, is that we're just going to have him in this breakout scene, and that'll be it. I know he's not all over this movie because he wasn't involved in the shooting. So there are 2 things I'm wondering if they're connected, but I don't think they are. So we find out that Quicksilver, or that Magneto's Quicksilver's father, which is something I would have left to the movie. Like, I don't know if the general public knows that. That I would have left that to the film. I wouldn't have put that in the trailer. But we also have Magneto talking about the death of his family, and I don't think it's Quicksilver's mom and sister. It could be, but I don't think so. I'm guessing that in between these 2 films, Magneto got a family and maybe even chilled. Like, maybe he, like, pulled back on the radicalism, and their death probably at the hands of humans. I'm guessing kind of anti-mutant sentiment. They die, and that's what aligns him with Apocalypse. That seems really interesting. So yeah, I was really excited for this movie, and now it looks like it's just the Mystique movie. And that makes me less excited, especially because I was really interested in a lot of these new characters. Or not even new characters. I was really hoping that Jean and Cyclops were going to uh, have much more to do and be more essential to the plot, especially since there's all these rumors that Dark Phoenix Saga is what the next film will be. I was really hoping that, like, I was kind of hoping that they would be the secondary main characters after Magneto and Xavier, and I guess Apocalypse. Jean has a little bit to do. Scott doesn't seem like he's got much of anything to do. Nightcrawler's in it for one scene. He looks pretty cool. Beast looks like Beast is kind of just Q now, and I wish they would. I know that they can't get the Beast facial makeup to ever look good. Like, it worked on Kelsey Grammer, but ever since then, we've never been able to get that makeup to really look good. But I wish that he just stayed Beast. Like, it kind of annoys me that he's still changing back and forth. That kind of diminishes that character's entire emotional journey to accept his Beast side, especially in First Class. But I think all of the Apocalypse's henchmen look cool. I kind of doubt any of them are going to get anything to do outside of Magneto. Maybe Storm will come over by the... Well, I guess they're all X-Men. They're all good guys. So I guess they'll all come over. But I kind of have this feeling that we're not going to get a lot with these characters. Especially since this movie looks like it's just going to be about Mystique. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping, if this is supposed to be the conclusion of this trilogy, we really get some kind of finality to Professor X and Magneto. My theory is that at the end of this movie, Professor X dies, and Magneto takes over the X-Men. Because Bryan Singer made this big deal out of those other movies have not happened and will not happen. So everything's up for grabs. Anybody can die. Do not assume that someone, because they were in those later films, cannot die here. I think Professor X dies and Magneto takes over the X-Men. I could be wrong. That's where Claremont was going. If you know anything about X-Men history, Claremont didn't actually use Magneto as a villain that much. In fact, a large chunk of his run, especially on New Mutants, is about the redemption of Magneto, and he intended to kill off Professor X and have Magneto take over as the X-Men, but then Jim Lee and then Claremont left, and he never did that. So I'm wondering if we're actually going to see a film version of that where Professor X dies and Magneto takes over the X-Men, because that would be a finality to their relationship that has developed over these 3 films. Um, but I don't know. I guess we will see. I'm still cautiously optimistic about this film, but I'm not going to be happy. This could be a great movie, but I'm going to be bothered if this entire movie is about Mystique, and it looks like this entire movie is about Mystique. Just give Mystique her own film. You just learned with Deadpool that you can take risks. Make a female-led superhero film with one of the biggest female actresses on the planet who just wants to keep taking over your X-Men movies and becoming the most important thing in the X-Men movies. Just give her her own movie. I guess that's kind of risky, but just do that. If she has to be the main character, like it looks like, just give her her own movie. I don't see why we can't just do that. But yeah, so still cautiously optimistic, still kind of excited. I'm really interested to see what they do with Apocalypse. And Scott and Jean. Scott and Jean are the... I was really hoping that we were going to get, kind of re-envisioned versions of these characters, where they had a little bit more depth and they had more to do. I really hope they have more to do.